Captain Kalen Vance had always been a man of controlled fury. His temper was a forge, a contained inferno he channeled into the relentless pursuit of justice for the Galactic Coalition. On the bridge of the battlecruiser ISS Resolute, he was the picture of icy command, a reputation built on a decade of flawless service and a personal vow to never let his emotions override his duty. That was, until the Raven's claw slipped through his fingers. For 3 cycles, he had hunted the notorious mercenary vessel, its captain a ghost responsible for ambushing Coalition supply lines and leaving wreckage and orphans in his wake. And now, due to a catastrophic miscommunication from the newly assigned, infuriatingly by the book Commodore Ilara, the Raven's Claw had vanished into the volatile nebula known as the Serpent's Coil, a region where sensors were useless and only instinct could guide a ship. The silence on the bridge was heavier than the vacuum outside. Every officer was frozen, pretending to be engrossed in their consoles, avoiding the storm they knew was brewing in the command chair. Kalen's knuckles were white where he gripped the armrests. The carefully constructed dam within him, the one that held back a lifetime of rage and loss, was cracking. He saw the faces of the supply convoy crew in his mind, people he had sworn to protect. He turned his head slowly, his voice a low, dangerous tremor that cut through the silence. "An order, Commodore? You call that an order? You delayed our pursuit vector by 47 seconds to run a tactical probability matrix while that pirate was spitting plasma at our escorts." Commodore Ilara, a woman with a severe bun and an expression of unreadable calm, turned from the star chart to face him. Her demeanor, which he had interpreted as cold arrogance, now felt like an insult. "The matrix was necessary to avoid the gravitational shear from the nebula's periphery, Captain Vance. A blind charge would have been suicide for this ship and its 300 souls aboard." Her logic was a match thrown onto the fuel of his anger. It was the same sterile, unfeeling logic that had dominated the Admiralty in recent years, a strategy of cautious retreats and political calculations that had cost them entire sectors. He stood up, the motion sharp and violent. His command console chirped a warning he ignored. "Suicide? We are soldiers. Our job is to risk suicide to ensure scum like the Raven's Claw doesn't get to live another day to kill more of ours. Your necessary matrix just gave them a free pass to rearm and strike again. How many more coffins will that decision fill, Commodore? How many?" He was shouting now, his voice echoing through the cavernous bridge. He took a step towards her, his frame towering over hers. He saw a flicker in her eyes, not of fear, but of something else, something deep and assessing. The rest of the bridge crew had given up all pretense of work. The helmsman looked physically ill. The tactical officer had his head in his hands. Kalen didn't care. The forge had burst open, and the fire was consuming him. He pointed a finger at her, a gross breach of protocol. "You hide behind your regulations and your algorithms, but out here, in the black, they are worthless. Your cowardice just cost us this war." The word hung in the air, poisonous and final. Cowardice. It was the worst accusation one officer could level at another. Commodore Ilara did not flinch. She did not step back. She simply looked at him, her gaze unwavering, and in a voice so quiet it was almost a whisper, yet it carried to every corner of the dead-silent bridge, she said, "Careful what you're proving, Captain." The words were like a bucket of ice water. They didn't douse the fire, but they contained it for a single, crystalline moment. What was he proving? That he was passionate? That he cared? No. He was proving he was unhinged. He was proving he could not control himself in a crisis. He was proving her right, whatever her point was. Before he could form a response, the ship-wide comms crackled to life, but not with the voice of his communications officer. It was a voice he had only ever heard in fleet-wide broadcasts and at the annual Coalition Day ceremony. It was a voice etched with the weight of ultimate command, calm, authoritative, and utterly terrifying. "All hands, this is Admiral Thorne. Secure all stations and set Condition 1 throughout the fleet. Command override authorization Thorne 09er. Captain Vance, you will report to the briefing room on the double. And you will stand down." The blood drained from Kalen's face. Admiral Thorne? The legendary, Reivanian Admiral Thorne was on his ship? It was impossible. The Admiral was a mythic figure, a strategist who operated from a hidden command post, her true identity a closely guarded secret to prevent assassination. The entire bridge crew snapped to attention, their personal shock eclipsed by a lifetime of drilled-in obedience. Kalen's eyes, wide with dawning horror, snapped back to Commodore Ilara. She held his gaze for one more second, a world of meaning in her calm expression, before she turned and walked off the bridge, not towards the officers' quarters, but towards the secure command lift that led only to the flag briefing room. The pieces, monstrous and unbelievable, began to click into place in Kalen's mind. The calm authority. The deep, strategic knowledge that seemed beyond her rank. The way she carried herself. The cryptic warning. Careful what you're proving, Captain. The walk to the briefing room was the longest of Kalen's life. It was a perp walk. Every crew member he passed avoided his eyes. His career, his life, was over. He had not just lost his temper, he had publicly insulted, accused, and nearly threatened the most powerful officer in the Coalition fleet. He had done so on her own ship, a ship she was apparently on incognito. Why? The question hammered in his skull. He reached the reinforced door of the briefing room, the red Admiralty in session light glowing ominously above it. He straightened his uniform, a futile gesture, and entered. The room was dark, illuminated only by the holographic star chart at its center. Standing before it, her back to him, was Commodore Ilara. But she was no longer Commodore Ilara. She had removed her uniform jacket, and the shirt beneath was the stark, simple black of a fleet admiral. She turned around, and the woman he had accused of cowardice was gone. In her place was Admiral Valeria Thorne, the architect of the Coalition's last 5 major victories, the woman they called the Silent Storm. "At ease, Captain," she said, her voice now carrying the full, unvarnished weight of her rank. It was the same voice, but the filter was off. The authority was absolute. Kalen stood rigid, unable to speak. "You are undoubtedly wondering why I am aboard your vessel under a subordinate's rank," she began, pacing slowly around the star chart. "The Raven's Claw is not a mere mercenary ship. Its captain, Rylak, is a former Coalition Black Ops commander, one of the best I ever trained. He went rogue with a significant amount of strategic data, including the identities of every deep cover agent in the Kelmar sector and the location of 3 hidden colony worlds. He is not a pirate, he is a strategic threat of the highest order." Kalen felt the deck shift under his feet. The entire foundation of his 3-cycle hunt was wrong. "Your very public, very passionate hunt for him," Thorne continued, "has been the perfect cover for my real operation. While you have been chasing his shadow, drawing all his attention, my team has been infiltrating his network, planting tracking beacons on his support vessels, and preparing to dismantle his entire organization, not just capture one ship. Your outburst today, however, nearly compromised everything. Rylak monitors our command channels. He heard your insubordination. He now knows that the Resolute is not just a determined hunter, but a ship in turmoil, with a captain on the edge. That makes you predictable. That makes you a tool he can use." Kalen's mind reeled. His righteous hunt had been a pawn move in a much larger game. His temper had not just been unprofessional, it had been a tactical disaster on a galactic scale. My apologies, Admiral. I had no idea." The words were pathetic, and he knew it. "Apologies are not a currency I deal in, Captain," Thorne said, her eyes like chips of flint. "I deal in results. Your record is exemplary. Your dedication is unquestioned. But this," she gestured vaguely towards the bridge, "this lack of control is a liability I cannot afford. I brought you into this operation, Captain Vance, because I needed a hammer. I needed Rylak to see a blunt, relentless instrument chasing him so he wouldn't look for the scalpel poised at his throat. I chose you because your file stated you were a man who got results, no matter the cost to yourself. I see now the cost is your judgment." She stopped in front of him. "So, here is your new reality. Your command is suspended, effective immediately. You will be confined to quarters until we reach Starbase 7, where you will face a court-martial for conduct unbecoming and endangering a covert operation." Kalen felt the world collapse in on him. It was worse than he had imagined. However, she said, her voice dropping, Rylak now has a new piece of data. He believes you are unstable and that this ship is divided. He will see an opportunity. He will get arrogant. And when he does, he will make a mistake. Your tantrum may have just given us the opening we need. So you will remain on this bridge, in your chair, for all external appearances. But you will not issue a single command without my direct authorization. You are a figurehead now, Captain. A piece of bait. Do you understand your orders? When the comms crackled back to life, Admiral Thorne's voice was tight. Resolute, report. What is your status? Kalen opened the channel. Admiral, the trap is set. The Raven's Claw is in the kill box. Their thrusters are disabled. They are dead in the water. Awaiting your final command. There was a pause on the other end, a silence that stretched for a lifetime. He could almost feel her reassessing him through the void. Execute, she said, a single, final word. The Resolute's main batteries fired, and the Raven's Claw was captured, its hull breached, its crew surrendering. In the aftermath, amidst the quiet hum of a ship returning to normal, Kalen stood on the bridge, waiting. Admiral Thorne emerged from the lift. She walked up to him, her eyes scanning his face, looking for the unhinged man from days before. She saw only a tired, resolute captain. You operated without orders, she stated. I completed the mission, Admiral, he replied, meeting her gaze. You understood the strategy. It wasn't a question. I did. She nodded slowly. A court-martial seems excessive for a man who can turn his greatest weakness into a tactical asset at the precise moment it is needed. Your command is reinstated, Captain Vance. Consider this a lesson learned. The firing you is a weapon. I need to know it is aimed by a sharp mind, not triggered by a frayed nerve. Do not make me regret this. She turned to leave, then stopped. And Captain? The next time you feel the need to prove something to a superior officer, perhaps just follow your orders. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Yes, Admiral, Kalen said, the weight of the galaxy finally lifting from his shoulders. He had lost his temper and found his limits. And in doing so, he had found a commander worth following into the deepest dark. So, where are you watching from tonight? Let me know in the comments if you're tuning in from the sunny coasts of California, the bustling cities of New York, or the wide-open plains of Texas.